We have new technology, and as you see, you don't have to pull the microphone to your mouth anymore. So we probably can even hear you from this one. Anyway, Mayor Williams is on vacay. Lucky guy. Our town manager is on a vacation. It's the season to have fun, I guess. But we will call this meeting to order. Thank you all for your presence and participation. This is the June 27th meeting, and I think the county was, Jared's coming, but I think he was unsure if it was Hardeeville or Bluffton. We do ping pong for anyone new here. We'll be in Hardeeville the next time, so we go back and forth from Hardeeville to Bluffton. So we've called this meeting to order, and I don't believe there's any old business unless anyone on this committee has any old business they want to discuss. Okie doke, sounds good. We have new business. Last month we talked about our next big project that we can do regionally, and it's just looking at our growth boundaries and the zoning and all getting together to try to get a handle on where we connect each other, how we can all be on the same page with this uprising development all around. So we have a new committee put together. Councilwoman Alice Howard is going to lead the committee until they all choose someone, but she stepped up to get it going. We are going to discuss the structure and the goals, and this is, but Alice and I will kind of go back and forth on this, but it's, you know, raise your hand and speak and see where we are and how you want it to be. The members are Councilwoman Howard. She'll be our liaison, but she's going to be our chair until they nominate a chair. From Beaufort, Kurt Freeze. Did I say that right? From Beaufort County, Rob Merchant. From Bluffton, Dan Frazier. Hardeeville, Matt Davis. Hilton Head Island, Sean Colin. Jasper County, Danny Lucas. Port Royal, Noah Kress. And Yemassee, Matt Garnes. And we didn't expect any of them to have a presentation today, but we thought we'd go over briefly kind of the committee, what it'll include, goals, and then if anyone is, we have 3 different jurisdictions that sent their growth boundaries. If you feel comfortable enough to go through them, Carrie has them uploaded. We can do it, but I'm not putting you on the spot to do it. And I think we have Beaufort, Town of Bluffton, City of Hardeeville.
And I did send those in. We share the same growth boundary, so the documents that I did send include all that information. I'm not sure. I've sent it to 2 different email addresses, so it was sent.
Okay, so we possibly have 4. We would need the county, Yemassee. Okay, so we'll send an email back out to get those in. So, open discussion. Alice, you want to add in, or you want me to just continue?
No, go ahead. I think that's good.
So we're going to decide today, if we can, or at least get a good idea of it, the goals that we would like this group to meet, the meeting dates and frequency. I think that could be up to the committee.
Right. Let them decide that.
Once we let them know our goals, and also they're professionals, maybe they have some ideas on goals too. Is anyone here from that committee that I mentioned? We have Matt. Matt, you're everywhere. Oh, we have Dan. So we have Bluffton, we have Dan, we have Matt, we have Matt Davis. So we have y'all chime in. Just because you're not sitting here doesn't mean that you don't have good thoughts. So this is attached. We can go through this, and anything else y'all want to add, I'm taking notes, and we'll have Mayor Williams put it all together. Review growth boundaries and zoning differences of contiguous borders. These are some suggested goals. Review of environmentally sensitive areas that could be preserved, particularly where they cross jurisdictional borders. Recommend zoning and or preservation MOUs for contiguous borders. Recommend bike pedestrian trails to connect jurisdictions. Compare zoning differences such as tree replacement, elevations, density, etc., and recommend changes. And recommend MOUs to prevent zone shopping. Y'all are all looking and look happy. We might already have our goals. Identify potential traffic bottlenecks and recommend action. Anything else? So it's open for anyone. I'll go around the table, then I'll go around the room. Come on, guys.
So
Stephen.
I'll speak up a little bit. From the north side of the county standpoint, we went through a number of these issues back with the Northern Regional Plan, I think in mid-2000s. I wasn't around at the time, but I think most of us between the city, and I don't want to speak for Port Royal, but I think pretty satisfied with the Northern Regional Plan, so maybe some review of that by the committee to sort of reinforce the commitments we all made. On some of the suggested items, I would ask, like recommend bike ped trails to connect jurisdictions. Thanks to the county's good work a year or so ago, I seem to recall the city approving, I forget what you call the thing, Greenways Trail, or so I was sort of under the impression that for Beaufort County that was at least completed.
This is just my opinion, it's pretty good on that goal.
I agree.
So we could just, share it with everyone, but I think this is, in Northern Beaufort County, we're good
Okay.
on that.
And then the traffic.
And I'm not just on bike trails. I know we have that, right, from the county? Because we're dealing with it now, right, Dan? So maybe it's just getting the plans together and seeing who's missing.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe it's,
Yeah, because from the city standpoint, we're using the county's plan as kind of a guiding document, and then I think our responsibility is to fill in the connectivity to where the county anticipates to make that, more of a comprehensive framework. But that's, I think, the individual municipalities' responsibilities after we look at the county's larger plan. The other sort of thought I'd throw at you've got G, identify potential traffic bottlenecks and recommend action. I might suggest that LATS, and disagree with me, but is LATS the sort of the clearinghouse for us to bring regional transportation issues, discuss priorities and funding mechanisms, and all the jurisdictions are in the room to sort of clear that out. So if this committee's looking at that too, is that a bit duplicative?
I agree. And since the city and the town just joined the metropolitan area, and the county voted for it last night too, so.
can y'all hear? Okay, got to talk a little louder.
Okay, I agree about the traffic. Jared just walked in too, but I think LATS, it might be the more appropriate instead of this group looking at that. And we've already got a lot of things in the works, unless people in Jasper or Hardyville feel differently about that. But we're all part of, except Yemassee, we're all part of that. Well, no, Yemassee's part of LATS, yeah.
I'm kind of looking at anyone on the staffing side, planning side. And Harry put this together, is that to give like meat on the bone, to hold off or change development if we had something through LATS that showed their hot spots or traffic? I mean, is that something, I'm just kind of looking at you or Dan, or anybody who's in this world.
It's under LAT's purview, and they've got a couple of projects that are close to become Lupton that they're working on right now. Highway 46 at the roundabout, and so at a regional level, identifying something that covers a couple different boundaries. LAT's had projects for that, but I don't see why we couldn't have that as part of the discussion with this growth committee in coordination with LATS.
Maybe bring in someone from LATS or someone, Stephanie, or just have that connection. But I agree with you. Let's not try to get out of a lane where we already have a group that meets that discusses it, but maybe some connection to it so you don't have to do a whole different. Because even LATS has the bike and pedestrian trails.
Right. Well, I just think, whoa.
Now we hear you.
Hot mic. I just think you've got a pretty large goal set here, and in terms of what we're asking a committee to do, and all these staff members are very busy folks with busy daily responsibilities. So I'm cognizant of bandwidth of the committee. And so to that point, I'll just also, if you go back to the Northern Regional Plan, which I think we probably should send out to the group, because I believe it's an evergreen document that's still got a lot of good information specific to the northern part of the Beaufort County. But the agreement for how we develop in the north was that about 60% of the land area in northern Beaufort County would remain rural. And the other 40% is where we would try to sort of fill in and capture growth within urban sort of municipal boundaries. You know, depends on your perspective. We've done a good job or we've done a okay job at that. But I just want to sort of put out there that at least in the north, our jurisdictions are going to develop differently. And so this idea of sort of harmonizing zoning or all of our land use regulations so that unincorporated counties match municipalities, I think they should be different. And I don't want to tell Jasper County, you know, we're not telling you what to do, but I think you've still got some real opportunity. And I commend Jasper County for putting the moratorium on that one land use area so you can kind of get a handle on what you're doing with densities. But I think it's incumbent on us to really try to concentrate growth within those municipal areas while at the same time working together to preclude growth in those unincorporated areas and sort of our rural parts of the county. You know, some parts of the county, that rural issue is gone and there's no rolling that back. But in terms of how we do impact fees, how we do development fees, how we do environmental standards, how we do land use regulation, all of those things need to be working in concert with one another in order to achieve, I think, our preferred outcome in land use long term. And so I hope the committee will sort of keep that as the end in mind as they start putting some policy.
Good. I wrote that down. Yes, sir.
I just want to say that, you know, relying on LATs is a problem in Jasper because 3/4 of Jasper is not covered by
That's true.
LATs.
Yeah.
In fact, the major growth areas that are coming up are outside the LATs
Got it.
criteria. So, you know, don't disregard the idea that LATs is going to take over everything because there is a problem coming up.
Yeah. I put LATS as a note from Jasper's point of view. LATS doesn't cover all of our Soloco area.
It goes up to 462 and then it stops. And
Right.
if you go down 170,
Yeah.
the backup is way up into the bridge sometimes.
So that's regarding the G, which was identify potential traffic bottlenecks and recommend action. I put that we rank this lower. Should LATS be in charge? However, LATS doesn't cover all of this. And y'all, LATS only has one person that is our staff right now. So we can't overload LOCOG right now unless we are all able in LATS to provide some backup with her. So.
Well, in my saying that, I'm just saying recognize it.
Yes.
Don't think that that's going to be the
End all to answer.
Everything.
Yeah.
Jasper, LATS does, I wrote that down. I'll go through all of this. Did you, yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to build off that point in G and just say, you know, when we address these issues, there's a lot more at play than just what LATS is working on. LATS is identifying studies and identifying dollars for actual construction, but there's a local buy-in and a local requirement to participate, whether financially or through staff, to make these projects succeed. And I think that's where this committee may be able to collaborate on strategies and ideas to help our individual local jurisdictions participate in executing some of those recommendations. So maybe this committee is not recommending what projects are being done, but they're identifying how they can be actually brought to fruition.
But, to say that again, they should recommend, they should not recommend.
They may not be recommending actual projects, but they may be identifying ways that the jurisdiction can work together to accomplish them.
Okay. Got it. Any other thoughts on this? I mean, I think this committee actually could get together and rank these items after they hear our feedback,
Okay.
and Alice will take that back. Any thoughts from?
I had one thought
Yes,
regarding B. The Beaufort County has a green map already. I don't know if Jasper does or not. It identifies high priority areas for environmental sensitivity.
Well, I think that's what the moratorium is. That's the number one priority.
That's a
right
priority
now,
of that,
because
so-
it's next to the water.
But we have information that we could, work on that, and there may be other ways. So I think B might be easier than we think.
Okay. I've got that. Anyone else? Anyone from the audience have thoughts? This is all about the our growth committee, that's all we're talking about. Anyone have thoughts on any of this?
I've got one additional thought.
Yes.
Since someone else is going.
And tell me what you're reading, which one.
Well, I was going to suggest another goal, a different goal. And that's, is it worth sort of taking a look at, what development densities are out there now, look at growth projections for 20, 30 years. I think Northern Regional Plan, it did that back in the mid-2000s. It's interesting now to see, where we missed the mark or exceeded the mark. But we've got we've got development densities in place, we've got development agreements in place. Is it worth sort of putting all that in one bucket so we know exactly what could happen if we allow sort of by right development to keep moving like it's going? I mean, and I used we worked with the county to do Ladies on Plan back in 2017 and did that exercise. And it was very informative to know that, there's like 6,000 units on Ladies Island today. The future is 8,000 additional units. And that got some folks' attention that transportation infrastructure has really got to keep up with that pace. So if we're going to have all this planning horsepower from the jurisdictions to bring in and, what sort of a full build-out scenario look like?
So is it worth looking at what densities are out there now, look at development agreements and densities to show what could happen and what is on the books? Presentation could include figures from this as well as the growth boundary areas. It could be kind of all compensated. We have, and for those actually that maybe we haven't relayed this enough, every single presentation ever made with SoLoco is on the Hardeeville and Bluffton websites. So if any of you would like to add those links, please, Carrie, can I put you in charge? Carrie can show you how to do it. We've had Beaufort and Port Royal coming, we've had those presentations recently, I'd say in the last year. So it'd be good for all of us to go back and look at those things, and this committee could look at them and see where we're missing. I have a map that Katie with Hardeeville sent me, and I forwarded on to Jared, that really shows that in Hardeeville communities and how much density, and I know Bluffton has that map. So that could be, so if that's a goal, does it fit? If we take one away, we're adding another one. But again, they're not going to do all of this in a day. They can rank it and come back to us, and are we okay with the ranking? I will say there's a little more urgency, and I was on those southern, I was here sadly, during the Northern Regional Plan and the Southern Regional Plan, and Weston Newton was the chair at the time. And Weston always said, our county is so different, and I don't know what's happening north of the Broad now with growth, and I know everyone's nervous about it, but that always was going to be more rural. Everything's so symbiotic. Bluffton, Hilton Head, Beaufort County, now Hardeeville, you don't know when you're in or out of the town, and we are growing faster. So the two, I don't think will ever be the same, and I think this committee needs to know it, but this is urgency on our part, and I think Mayor Williams will attest to that, and anyone on staff will tell you they're knocking at the door, and they honestly don't care what happens after they leave. We're all here left with trying to figure it out. So did I relay your thoughts on
You articulated it much better than I did, so thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone other than item G, which is potential bottlenecks and recommend action, and B, at least for Beaufort County, the environmentally sensitive areas, are there any that y'all are like, ugh, what was he thinking about? Are y'all good with this list?
I'd just like to add that the benefits of doing this will really help the Green Space Committee. And they're meeting now, trying to come up with their processes. The money from the Green Space can be used in other counties. So this will dovetail well into that, whatever we come up with, and will help that committee make decisions on where those dollars are going to be spent. So I think, just the light came on. All of this is going to help that committee make their decisions.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yes,
And that kind of dovetails into the thought I was having is, have we reconciled the Northern Regional Plan and that designation of zoning for rural areas with what is by right? And have we had any successes, and does that drive any decisions relative to purchasing green space or development rights?
Well, that's, yeah, I think the Pine View tract on Ladies Island, the county purchased, I think, out of the Ladies Island plan was
Right.
proactive in nature.
Right.
But I think these things all sort of dovetail into one another. Looking at sort of broad zoning densities and where growth can occur, if we look at how the jurisdictions connect and who's allowing what, that might highlight some of these environmentally sensitive areas. As an aside, I'll say I know the Open Land Trust has formed a committee, and so I might suggest that they're not a voting member or an ex officio, but they at least get invited in to sort of participate in the processing. But I've oftentimes find ourselves, we're reactive, right? We get a project in the hopper, a developer comes out, makes application, it gets highlighted, and then there's all this consternation and tension trying to figure out how we make it more appropriate, however you define that. If this committee works, we could take a more proactive sort of approach of identifying these parcels before that pressure is maybe as hot as it is when you have a project, which allows, I think to Alice's point, green space committee or, strategies for us to work together to figure out how we fix these things before we have to be reactive.
And there's a lot of flexibility with that money, a lot more than what we had with rural and critical lands funds. So it can be used in areas such as pathways and those kind of things. So this will benefit that greatly.
and I hope this committee, which you see, is such a good overall committee. So you have Yemassee, Port Royal, Yemassee, I want to talk about Jasper County, Hardyville, and Jasper County. I think it's a good group, and everyone's so respectful of each other that we're only trying to show where maybe we all did wrong. I tell Mayor Williams that all the time. We didn't do everything right. If we could do it all over again, it'd be a much different look. But who knows? So really to see where we can help or maybe learn from Jasper what they see from the outside in, and I just don't want this to be all Beaufort County, because all of us have a play in this, what's going to happen. So I just wanted to get that out there and really want to hear Ridgeland, I want to hear Jasper, Yemassee, I think this committee will be very much throw everything on the table too. So I think they're not soft-spoken people that are on this committee, so.
I just think that this is very important because the moratorium not only affects Jasper County, it actually affects Beaufort County. And a lot of people don't know that, or don't realize that Beaufort County is probably just as important for this moratorium as we are.
And I'm not as fully understanding of that, so maybe that's something the committee can discuss. Is this moratorium and why did you do it? What are you getting from it? I think that would actually be helpful for this committee.
It's 6 months, correct?
It's 270 days. So it's
that's-
Okay.
9 months, I think.
9 months, okay.
Yeah.
We had started out at 180 days.
Oh,
And we went to we extended it another 30 days or whatever it was, to the fact that if we would have had extended because we didn't have enough time to do it, we would have to go through another ordinance, which would be 3 readings. So we just went to 270 days, and they could always say, no, we've finished and we can go ahead without the moratorium.
Is your council aware of what we're all talking about now? I mean,
Not now, but
Okay.
they will be. I mean,
Okay.
I'll be doing it. You have Danny Lucas here, he'd
Yeah.
bring up and I usually give a little synopsis of what goes on here to the council. But I think it's new territory for us because we have all new people on the board. We have a staff that will help out. We have a company's coming in to help us. And really part of it is we have to do a review of a comprehensive plan, which just fits right in there.
yeah.
And I think that, personally, I think the whole county has to be redone, because when we did the zoning in the first place, it was zoned rural all place, and there's a lot of places that could be better. And we have to increase our zoning, because a distribution center is different than a warehouse. And we don't have that distinction. So,
This is all good. So we'll leave it up to you to get the first
Get the committee
meeting
together.
going, and
Sure.
then July, you can give us a quick update. July, we're going to totally focus on the Regional Housing Trust. I think we all have a lot of questions, and there's a lot of money coming in from other sources, and it'll just be a good time in July so think about questions you'd like to ask of that committee. Are there any of the three that sent their growth boundaries, were y'all prepared to present that, or do you want to wait? I mean, it's okay.
I didn't know we submitted.
Oh, well, we did. So, I think it would, I don't want to make Carrie do it. Do you want to just kind of scroll through the slides, or do you want to wait until, just get everyone's in and get a, who submitted it?
It sounds like
Matt, did you submit Hardyville's?
Kevin may have submitted what we have in our comp plan as our growth framework map, like one we're looking at.
So we have Beaufort. Is anyone in Hardyville that, and listen, I'm not putting you on the spot. Do you want to go through Hardyville's while you're here? Let's do it. Let's go
Let's
through.
do Hardyville, yeah.
Go for it. Michael Simborg will do Hardyville.
It's going to be Mr. Davis doing Hardyville.
It'll be
Yes.
Matt Davis.
Yes.
Were you ready?
Sure.
Oh, good.
I do have can I give you the
So we'll go through Hardyville. If everyone else will send a reminder, can kind of see what's being sent in and send yours in. This is also going to be good for the committee to see.
Right.
More really than
Dan, you
us.
said you sent yours in?
Yeah, I'd send it again, just.
Okay, but it's the same as city, so, yeah. It hasn't changed. The city and town same. It's fine. We'll put them together next time.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So in Hardyville, we looked at this about 2 years ago. We had really established a formal growth policy or annexation policy at that time, and our council asked them to do so. So we did look at it. Most of you probably know that Hardyville grew exponentially over the last, say, 20 years, really, with some massive annexation, primarily former timberland, in thousands of acres at a time. So most of those are in planned development districts now, but so we did look at that. Everything you see there in shaded in blue is the existing city limit. The red line is our annexation or growth boundary. You know, we looked at but we did and we kind of just looked at it and said, you know, look at the adjacent land uses, you know, the development potential of those properties, how municipal services will be provided, and if it makes sense to annex that, you know, if folks are interested. So that's kind of how we drew the boundary. You can see there's really not a whole lot of land that's not already in the city within our growth area. There's some pockets. We certainly realize not all those pockets are ever going to annex, and we understand that. I've emphasized since we started doing this that red line does not represent a build to line, but rather go no further than line. But our boundary is essentially to the west, or to the east is kind of 170, and then basically the New River, and then 315 all the way down to 17, and you have the Savannah River, the Savannah Wildlife Refuge kind of to the south, Hardyville is on the far west there, exit 5, is proposed exit 3, and then of course to the north, basically it just follows the existing city boundary that kind of butts up for the most part against the existing BJWSA canal. And then to the north and west, kind of around Hardyville, is vast acreage owned by the Oaktree Club. So
Point where that is, if you don't mind. Or kind of, is it to the, above where it says exit 8? Where? Is that in the town limits, or, ooh, I don't know.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Where is the Oakity Club acreage? Is it within the boundaries, or,
It's to the north, and then it kind of wraps around to the north and the west.
and across I-95?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's a tremendous amount of acreage.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it almost kind of presents itself as its own green belt. So it's kind of nice from that perspective. So, and again, we're pretty limited there to the east anyway. So, you know, there's a big chunk there towards the bottom, towards the south. A lot of that is more plantation, which is obviously preserved already. So, you know, the odds of that coming in. But that's really what we did. We just kind of tried to look at, waterways, existing roadways, existing development, and that's how we came up with what we felt was a fairly logical boundary. That's where we are in the city. We have a tremendous amount of undeveloped land already in the city, so I don't think, other than maybe trying to clean up some donut holes or some pockets where it kind of makes sense to annex, I don't see us necessarily pursuing any large annexations from this point in the near future. Any questions about that?
Any questions of Mike? Yes,
I have
Stephen?
a quick question. The mayor, I think, told me several years ago that you're about 58,000 single-family units by right. Do you know where you are currently with some of the new annexations that have come in?
That number's probably a little high.
Okay.
I'm actually finalizing that right now, and probably for the next week I'll have some really good numbers. But with the existing development agreements, and a lot of our development agreements, they might have a maximum number of units, but in reality, by the time a big parcel gets carved out into various subdivisions, and they count for roads and stormwater and environmental features, you're never going to reach that ultimate density. But we're doing a little bit of counting of that right now. But my guess would be somewhere in the $40,000, $35,000 to $40,000 units that would remain.
Okay.
Over
And what do you know what you have now? What's approximately?
right now.
Again, it's all that is on our websites with our development agreement updates. Matt, up above Exit 8, that red line follows I-95, right? You go up where you see Exit 8 and kind of to the left where it says Hilton Head Lakes. That land looks like there are roadways that would connect to the frontage road. A long time ago, wasn't there plans to have, when it was latitudes or whatever, to go out to I-95, like at an exit 12?
The thing is, yes, there was talk of maybe mile marker 12 or 13 of potential new exits.
And that's within your line, do you think? Because if 5 to 8,
Yeah, because our city limits are currently put up against I-95.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's nothing that we discussed.
When I met, I had a question. When I met with the mayor last week, he mentioned Latitude. What's the build out of it? Do you know offhand? Right.
They're approaching halfway right now.
Okay. And how many? They're building pretty rapidly, right?
They're going to do about 450 units this year. They think they're going to do about 600 next year.
Okay.
There's been a slowdown.
No. You're talking about to
Yes,
Latitude, but then there's a
Latitude.
separate one at
Hilton Head
Lakes, which isn't as rapid.
Right, that's the West Argent tract, and there's several potential developments in there.
Any more questions? This is what I think we need to see, and then at some point that committee can just have a super big map. Maybe we break it down to see, okay, so where's Jasper in that? Is that, whatever that hunting range, is it in perpetuity, which we all know nothing is, but how can we, and I think it goes back to the number 3B, how can we consider purchasing density or conservation easement? It should be more than just preserved. How can we preserve it? They might have an appetite for some money to ensure no development. I mean, I don't know, but it's a lot. It's like 50,000 acres or some crazy number.
Immediately to the north of the red line at the top of the page, that's in the area that Jasper County is not the moratorium, so
Okay.
outside our purview area anyway.
Good.
That's where their planning area is, where they instituted the moratorium.
It's interesting. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what Mayor Tuna and Matt did mention, there's a detailed application that prospective future city resident, kind of a detailed cost-benefit analysis. Why do you want to annex? What's the benefits to the city? What are the costs to the city to provide services? So, and when we did that's how we kind of came up with the map. So the map, the boundary map, joint services, what makes logical sense, where should each type of development go, so that's all included in that application process that kind of went and formalizing those boundaries.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from anyone?
I had a question, just because I don't know, and it's probably on the website. What type of impact fees? I know you have recreation impact fees, but what other impact fees?
We don't have statutory impact fees.
Okay.
We call voluntary development fees, but we do have a schedule. We negotiate them with each potential project. We look at our long-range needs, kind of attributing a certain percentage to
Okay.
growth versus existing residents and what that split would
Is
be.
that how you built the recreation center with the negotiation?
No, the recreation center is actually being paid for with 8 tax dollars.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was impact. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, and this will upload to our 2 links currently with Hardyville and Bluffton. And again, everyone should have a link. I think it's really good for your residents to see what we're talking about. Does Bluffton or does Beaufort want to do it? Is there someone from Beaufort that could present, or do you want to hold off?
I'm sure we could
Or do you
present
want to do something like
It
that?
may be more useful to do it at the same time as Florida does theirs.
Okay.
That just makes a little more sense to do it one time.
Okay. Would Bluffton want to just show the framework map to see, I mean, it's just one slide, right?
I can talk a little bit about.
You go, Dan. Good.
Just high level.
That's fine.
Obviously, to the north is 278.
He wants you to talk in that microphone.
There we go. Does this work?
It's on.
Yes, it does. Well, sort of works. 278 across the top, and along the western boundary, sort of, is SC 170 Okeechobee Highway. Bluffton's unique, as probably everybody in here knows, because we have development agreements that dictate about 92% of the town limits, and only about half of that is built out. So our pressure right now that we have is SC 170. We've got a lot of development pressure. We have applications coming in, discussions about what to build, not build, and that rolls into something maybe the growth committee is going to be talking about with regional pathways. We kind of have the mindset that whatever we can get out of the developers, we'd like to get when it comes to pathways. We are, certainly can't speak for council, but I don't think we have much of an appetite for future annexation at this time because we have so much approvals on the books. These development agreements, they list the permitted uses that are allowed in a large swath of the town of Bluffton, and so it's literally undeveloped land waiting for folks to come in that already have built-in permitted uses based upon a development agreement. So that's where we stand. We're a very busy office because of that, and as the mayor knows, we're having development pop up throughout the entire town. So I'd have to wing it if you have any questions, but I'll give it my best. I brought reinforcements with a couple of people higher than me on the flow chart.
There you go. Any questions for Bluffton? If you break down that 50, I think it's around, we got to be getting close to 80 on residential.
80 residential utilized, so that doesn't necessarily mean there's house built, but
Right.
there's the platted. 80% residential, 36% of our commercial when you average it out overall.
Yeah, so I always break it out because residents freak out when they
Right.
are 18 cars behind a red light and then we're only halfway there.
A good resource, excuse me, Mayor,
Yes,
is
sir.
each January, Town Council gets a presentation on the status of the development agreements, and that's also included in a presentation, so you can go to our website and you can look up, go under January of this year for Town Council. You'll have the most recent update of where we stand with our development agreements. It includes homes built, commercial square footage built, and what's left on the books per each PUD. So that's really helpful on giving a gauge of where we are with our development agreements.
Thank you, Dan. And we have a council member, Wood, thank you for being here. We kind of know where our residential is, but what council always is waiting for is the commercial to pay for all this residential. And so we're really looking at what do we want to recruit in terms of the good commercials. So we sit within that map, and you see the very white areas. That's why I said we're so different. The very white areas is in the county, so it's not town limits. So we are not a yin and yang by any means. And even between us and Hilton Head, even on Hilton Head, it's not all Hilton Head. So it's very kind of messy. Okay, so I do agree. I think Beaufort and Port Royal just to show the two. There might be some differences. Hilton Head, if we could get it, and then Beaufort County, Jasper County, and Richland, right?
It's just beyond having our perimeter, Gross County, we have an internal agreed upon boundary because we abut one another, so that'll be interesting for, I think, folks to see.
Okay, we're off. We can just do it in faster than the developers can develop. Any questions, any thoughts from this table? The July agenda, we're going to solely focus on Regional Housing Trust, 100%. So Mayor had sent out an email, I think, of this committee. If not, he was going to. Let's get our questions. I think this committee needs to be updated on very detailed info on what's going on, a little lower than high level. And I don't know who will be here, but they've been talking to Mayor Williams about it. Anything else for now, for here? Do you think we're on track for the public? Yes, sir. Mike?
Yeah, one other thing we didn't talk about, Mayor, really is, and which we might want to add as a goal is, joint service provision. So we've got, all these developments that affect, we're right at each other's boundaries, i.e. fire departments. Why would the city, build a $5 or $6 million fire department that, would cross over jurisdictional boundaries? Public works, stormwater, law enforcement, parks and recreation. So, this committee could, look at the similarities and differences, but the possibility for some more joint service provision between all of our, participating jurisdictions.
Okay, I got it down there. I'll go through this because who do we have?
Jocelyn had
Oh, hey, Jocelyn. Yes. Talk. Yeah, and just talk loudly.
Hello.
Here.
As you're all I think this is amazing that you're learning each other's, where your growth is, and your boundaries. What I think would be helpful possibly to consider is bringing the school district into the discussion, either Frank Rodriguez or someone from the school. Are you all communicating about your growth and what schools are needed, and set aside land for them? Are the impact fees all set for them? I'm just curious.
No, if you're curious, well, and if you're curious and you come to all these meetings, imagine who doesn't. I wrote school district involvement. But yes, but sadly, all the utilities, including school districts, were asked 20 years ago in Bluffton, and no one looked too far ahead to know where we would be. But I think all that can be discussed. So,
Mayor Sulko,
thank you, Jocelyn.
we might want to add Carol to the group. I know that would be up to her, but since she's the planner for the school district, think about that.
Hold on, write her name. I always spell it wrong. Crutchfield. Right.
Jasper County School
Who
District.
is your counterpart at Jasper? Would you know?
I do not know, but I just reached out and seen last Daryl, may know more than I do. Daryl was my last kind of counterpart.
The counterpart works for a private company.
Oh, well, it might be you.
Well, he's not with them anymore.
I know, but he has knowledge.
Down and see who over there.
Well, it is just a constant reminder, this group works so well because we're a bigger umbrella, and I don't like when everything's heavy Beaufort County, and I live in Beaufort County. So I like everyone to make sure they're involved. So if we don't have it, maybe you can just, if the committee's okay, she could just, if she has time at the right, kind of like LATS, and I wrote something else. Open Land Trust, does someone like Carol have to show up every single meeting?
Right.
Or can you
Just as
come
needed.
when needed? Okay, I put that on there.
Okay.
Okay. So I put on our notes to go along with this, and I put who asked about it. So Beaufort said the review of the Northern Regional Plan would be a good idea regarding bikes and pedestrian trails. Let's get that info. LATS does have it, but make sure Jasper County, do they have a trail plan too? Should LATS be in charge of item G, which is identify potential traffic bottlenecks? I just put rank lower. see that there are differences in planning north versus south of the Broad. Jasper County reminds us that LATS doesn't cover all of our SoLoCo area. On item G, again, when we address, there's more, when we address, you wrote it, you said it, Chris. There's more in play than what LATS is doing. Local buy-in and requirement to make projects proceed. They should not be recommending the KIT committee, but how can each jurisdiction get projects done? I think that makes sense. I'll get with you. Alice talked about the green map under item 3B, and let's see what Jasper County and their jurisdictions have. Stephen Murray set another goal. Is it worth looking at what densities are out there now? Look at development agreements to show what could happen at build out. Alice just made a comment. All of this can help the Green Space Committee, and that money can be used throughout our region. I don't know that Jasper and Ridgeland and Hardyville know that. Maybe we should let them know that.
It's in the legislation.
Van, has the Northern Regional Plan been reconciled? Stephen Murray said we should invite Open Land Trust when needed. I put LATS and school district with that. I'd go again, don't overlook Jasper and Hardyville, and not only focus on Beaufort. Jasper County thinks this committee's important. They're going to discuss the moratorium, and I think that's a committee presentation. And I added on 3B, other than the review, also see who can help with conservation easements. Because anything that's rural now, y'all, look at Jasper down at Snake Road. It's not going to be rural forever. Jocelyn talked about the school district, and we're going to add Carroll Crutchville and perhaps Jasper County's counterpart. Did I cover it?
I think so.
Any thoughts from anyone? Okay, record time. Anything good for this whole committee?
I suggest maybe an August agenda item, and I know the school district is going to go for referendum in November, and would it be worth having Dr. Rodriguez or someone from the board to come in and make a presentation on exactly what they're asking of voters that would affect the county?
I will bring that up to the chair. I'm going to let him decide, because he might have a whole list of what's going on, but
No
thank
worries.
you. July's totally focused on housing trust, school district referendum. Okay, got it. Okay, we're out here early. Hey, Sean, there's another member. Okay, we will get with y'all on these growth. That takes 2 minutes to go over one slide. So maybe Mayor Williams will put the growth boundary framework in. Is there a motion to adjourn? I'll motion. Thank you. We're adjourned. Next.